So welcome everyone to our meeting set of Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. We'll be starting off as the Housing Authority Board of Directors, and I'd like to turn it over to Clerk Kevin Moss.
Thank you, Madam Director. Welcome back, Directors, to this first Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. Director Willie?
Here.
Director Savara?
Here.
Director Rogers?
Here.
Director Treese?
Here.
Director Harrington?
Here.
And Director Commissioner Fall. Faye.
Okay.
My apologies. And I will keep a lookout, Madam Director, for Director Roper.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Good morning, everyone. The first item on the agenda for the Housing Authority Board of Directors is oral communication for the Washington County Housing Authority Board. Mr. Moss, oh, there's Director Roper. Great, good to see you again. And welcome to our newest director of the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners, Director Nafisa Fai. Carolyn Roper and Mike Savara are our community members joining us as the elected 5 for the 7-member Housing Authority Board of Directors. So the first item on the agenda is oral communication. Mr. Moss, do we have anyone signed up to address us during this portion of the meeting?
Madam Director, we do not have anyone for the Housing Authority Board.
Okay, great. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda for the Housing Authority Board. Today's consent agenda consists of the approval of the minutes of December 15th, 2020, as well as approving a resolution and order adopting the Housing Authority of Washington County's Move to Work application, which we went over pretty extensively in our latter meetings of December back in 2020, which is now behind us. What are the wishes of the Board of Directors on the consent agenda?
A motion.
So Director Roper is making a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving today's consent agenda, please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 7-0. Thank you. The next item on today's consent agenda for the Housing Authority Board of Directors is our second period of oral communication for a 5-minute opportunity. Mr. Moss, do we have anyone signed up today?
We do not, Madam Director.
Okay. Well, today's agenda for this month's meeting of the Housing Authority is a pretty short one. I know we had a much more extensive one at our last meeting, so I thank everyone for participating and welcome to this new year. I know we have some exciting things going on with the Housing Authority for providing services to our community. And just to make sure that all directors are aware, as we have heard through the national press, the President and Congress approved an additional stimulus package that extended the spending timeframe for the Coronavirus Relief Fund. That was CRF is one aspect of the CARES Act, but there are also other dollars made available to serve the community through the CARES Act that has been spent through, for example, the Emergency Community Development Block Grant funding. So our CAO, Tanya Angie, shared with us at our work session this morning that our staff is taking stock. They've done a tremendous amount of work to spend through the dollars. And Miss Angie, could you mention again the rent relief result that you shared with us in this morning's meeting so that Directors Roper and Savaro at least have the opportunity of that?
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I'm pleased to do so. And I will ensure that the both of you also get this written update, which will provide additional detail. This grant program was in partnership with our community development department as well as housing. So pleased to announce that we awarded 20 applicants under the so that's 20 complexes, not individual renters, under the multifamily rental economic relief program. Really proud of the staff team. They launched this program and fully executed within 3 weeks. So that demonstrates not only community need, but I do just want to express appreciation to the staff team for their creative thinking and moving quickly to address this need. What the outcome will mean is when the eviction moratorium lifts, this will be this will help renters not have to pay those back rents. So the relief is going, while it's going to the owners, it is being applied to direct rents for individual renters. So great news.
That's terrific. I hadn't caught that it was for 20 full complexes. Do you have any estimate of about how many homes that includes for this total set of 20 complexes? Are we talking in the multiple hundreds or less than 100, for example?
I don't have that detail at my fingertips and I don't want to estimate, so I will provide that detail to the board and the Housing Authority.
That's really exciting. Great, great. Are there any other board announcements that directors would like to share? Directors.
One, just kind of in line with that, putting on my other hat, I work at Oregon Housing Community Services, and we have been really looking at how to make sure that there's enough rental assistance throughout the state. I just wanted to flag for folks who are listening and for folks in the community that there are additional rental assistance dollars coming from the state as well. So a few different programs in addition to what we've been working with before, and our partners at Community Action here in Washington County have been doing an amazing job of getting rental assistance out to individual tenants who are in need and who have been impacted by COVID. So our hats are off to them. They've really done an amazing job of both operating the county side of the Coronavirus Relief Fund as well as the state side. So we're looking at additional funding through CRF now that extension has been passed. I believe we actually issued nearly $1 million to Community Action just last week for additional rental assistance. And there will be a landlord-based program coming here in the next few weeks that'll be launching through OHCS that landlords can apply on behalf of their tenants for rental assistance. That's actually a $150 million rental assistance pot that needs to be spent by June. And then there's going to be a $50 million additional allocation of rental assistance for tenants who are interested in obtaining assistance. And that will be operated again by Community Action. So just really excited about the opportunity to really try to meet this immense need that we're seeing in the community through a variety of different programs and means. So great partnerships all across the board, and really appreciate everyone's work on this.
Related to that, since we have the Assistant Director of our Housing Authority, Josh Kreitz, here, Josh, could you help at least me as a director better understand as the foreclosure moratorium has expired, and I'm assuming there will be a variety of homeowners who now find themselves in arrears on their mortgage payments and therefore under foreclosure notices. Are there any particular public agency aspects or nonprofits that homeowners who find themselves now dealing with foreclosure can go to for some assistance to figure out how to deal with that process? Any best
Yeah.
advice?
Good morning, Chair Harrington and board. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, so we're working with all of our community partners to look at all the different funding varieties and funding opportunities for not only renters, but obviously folks who are having a tough time with their mortgage. A lot of the federal and state funding that's coming in is geared towards rent arrears. As you've heard, 150 million is coming from HCS. We just saw that 25 billion is being allocated for rental assistance in relation to from the federal government. And so we're working with community development and all of our partners to look at all those different options for our community. But a lot of the money has been funneled towards rental assistance. So I don't know if Tanya has any other updates that she might be able to provide.
Chair Harrington and directors, the GR team is actively looking into this as soon as we heard about the foreclosure moratorium, and they will be reporting back with a GR update as soon as more information is available. And I do want to just reiterate what Josh had alluded to. Most of the relief is for renters. There is some discussion relative to legislation, but it's way too early to provide anything definitive.
I just don't know if the Oregon Consumer Protection Agency has any information for when someone receives a notice. How do you make heads or tails for what this might mean to you as a homeowner? I've never been through it myself. I just don't have any experience. So I'd like to provide a better answer to a constituent than I don't know, and I wish you the best. So thank you. Any other Board of Director communications? Commissioner Treese, anything? No? Okay. All righty.
Can I just respond to your last comment?
Yes.
I will work with the housing team, Comey and Josh, and we can get information provided on our website as a resource to community members.
Terrific. Thank you. Commissioner Savara and Commissioner Roper, not to put you on the spot, but here we are at the beginning of a new year, and I wanted to make sure that I touched bases to see if there's anything you'd like to share with us before we close out our first Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting for this new year.
Nothing too much, just really excited to be part of this group and excited to see where we're going to go this year. It's been a very difficult year in terms of housing and really thinking through how to best support folks who are living on the edge. And I think 2021 is going to prove to be additionally challenging. But I'm just really excited about the team we have assembled and excited to see where we go, and happy that we have all of this additional support and that we can just kind of leverage getting the message out so that folks are aware of these resources and people are able to find the support they need. So really excited to be on the team. Thank you, Chair Harrington.
Commissioner Roper?
Yes, I'm just excited for 2021 to finally have arrived, and I'm grateful to be on this team. Listening to you guys today has brought me a lot of hope for a lot of people that I know, and I'm definitely going to have to reach out so that way I can provide the community with these resources. 2020 came like a storm and left its damage, and I sure know what it feels like, but I'm so grateful to be with housing and have such just like enormous amount of information and being able to work with Mike and all of you guys, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for your time.
Great. Well, you each add value to the work that we're doing, and I know that we have some great programs underway for affordable housing, new construction, the rehabilitation contracts our staff has already brought to us that we approved recently, as well as the supportive housing services program being assembled. So yes, 2021 does hold promise for all of us to continue to remain healthy, get vaccinated. Just so that you hear it directly, I assume that we will continue to operate in this exclusively remote fashion as long as Washington County is in at least the extreme risk category. So just so that you know how things might evolve. Okay? Great. Any last board announcements before entertaining a motion to adjourn today's Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. I second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn today's Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting of Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 7-0. So that's it. Thank you, directors, for joining us today. And
Thank you.
next we'll transition over to the Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting. Mr. Moss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Washington County Board of Commissioners, also serving as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other service districts, is now meeting in this first regular session, January 5th, 2021. Commissioner Fye.
Yes.
Commissioner Willie.
Here.
Commissioner Treese.
Here.
Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here. Thank you. We have a full complement of all 5 of us on the 2021 Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting. I would like to welcome our returning County Commissioner, Roy Rogers. He was sworn in for his latest or his newest 4-year term this morning. And our newest member of the Board of Commissioners, Nafisa Fye, has joined us and is now a member of the board. For either one of you, I know that during the swearing in, you had an opportunity to make remarks, but I just wanted to touch base and see if there was anything else you wanted to add in this morning's meeting before we get on to the agenda. And
I have
it's
about
okay.
an hour and a half worth of notes. Is this the time to do that now?
Pardon me?
I said I have about an hour and a half of notes. Is this a good time to do it? I'm
Hour and
teasing.
a half.
Oh,
Yeah, I was like, wow.
No, I think I said everything I needed to say this morning. Good to be back with everyone, and it will certainly be a busy year in 2021. That's without question. So,
And our
welcome.
swearing in was recorded and that video will be available. Commissioner Fye, anything you'd like to add?
No, just happy to be here and happy new year, everyone. It's going to be a great year.
Well, you are having an incredibly unique experience in starting entirely virtually as a new member of the commission. The rest of us have had many months under our belt for doing this virtually, but none of us have gone through what you're going through now as a new commissioner, doing everything exclusively online. So I'm sure you're experiencing some challenges that we take for granted. So thank you very much for doing all of that and getting up to speed on the robust portfolio that is Washington County, as well as for clean water services. Really appreciate it. So. All right, then we'll move on to today's agenda. There are no changes to this morning's agenda for me to announce, so we'll jump right into oral communications. And I know we have at least one person signed up, so Board Clerk Moss, what have you got for us today?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First up, we have former Commissioner Dick Scouten, formerly serving as District 1 Commissioner. Former Commissioner Scouten, welcome.
Thank you.
Please go
Thank
ahead.
you very much. I just wanted to let all of you know that I did see the swearing-in ceremony this morning and very much enjoyed it. I wanted to congratulate Commissioner Roy Rogers and Commissioner Nafisa Fye, as well as the sheriff. It was a nice ceremony, and I want to wish all of you the best of luck in 2021. Best wishes. There's a lot of competency on the board and on the staff level, so I know that you're all up to it. And have a great year, and best wishes. Thanks.
Thank you, former Commissioner. Next up, Madam Chair, we have Mr. Dale Feek. Dale, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me, Kevin?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead for up to 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, Commissioners Willie Treese, and congratulations to being reelected to Roy Rogers, and also for the newly elected Nafisa Fye. Congratulations. I'm Dale Feek, Chair and Spokesperson of Washington County Citizen Action Network. I sent you an email early this morning. I addressed it actually to Deborah Kafori, Chair of the Multnomah County Commissioners. In that I said, thank you, Multnomah County Commissioner Sushila Japala, for participating in the how to address the inequities of COVID-19 through vaccine distribution to minority communities, a community discussion in which Commissioner Pam Treese also participated. Thank you. In my email, I said, previously, I made public comment to you, Madam Chair Deborah Kafori, about your actions of supporting the youth suing the state of Oregon over climate change. I previously asked Washington County Commissioners to write a legal brief in support of the youth's climate lawsuit, as you and your fellow commissioners directed your legal staff to do so. I want you to know that Washington County is working on adopting a strategy to divest some of its investments out of the fossil fuel industry. Washington County is fighting global warming, climate change seriously, and appears to be supporting the state framework to reduce climate change, global warming. So I'm asking you, Chair Kafori, to work with Washington County Commissioners and the county staff in this divestment strategy and state framework effort. It's very important you, as leaders of Multnomah County and Washington County, can really impact the ability to live in a climate that will not have disastrous effects. So please, in your roundtable discussion and your goal setting, really seriously address that on Thursday. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Feek. And we have no one else signed up, Madam Chair.
Okay, well, thank you, community members, for joining us in today's meeting. We welcome all comments. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of one set of minutes, 5 items under clean water services, 1 item under land use and transportation, 1 item under county, 2 items under county council, 1 item under the sheriff's office, and 1 item under support services. What are the wishes of the commission related to these 11 items and the consent agenda?
For approval?
We have a motion. We had 2 motions, so I take it one of those will be a second. All those in favor of adopting today's consent agenda, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you, commissioners. Next on our agenda is a presentation from our very own Director of Health and Human Services, Marnie Kyle, on COVID-19. And I know we have some new information, evolving information as always, related to the presence of COVID in our community, as well as vaccinations. Welcome, Marnie. It's good to see you in the new year.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Harrington. And I also wanted to, I also wanted to say welcome, Commissioner Fye. It's great to have you on our board now. I look forward to working with you And of course, congratulations, and I'm very happy to continue to work with you, Commissioner Rogers. And to the rest of you, Happy New Year. It's 2021. So we can go to the next slide. So I'm going to briefly go through a few of the numbers, but most of the time this morning will be spent on giving you the latest information that we have on vaccinations. And one of the things to know as we talk about vaccines is that it is literally changing minute to minute. Even as I was waiting to get onto this call, I was getting new information from the staff and from OHA. So just remember, whatever I share today is outdated in an hour. So just to start with the numbers, you can see that Oregon has had a cumulative case count of 118,456. Our statewide case rate is 2688 per 100,000. And unfortunately, really unfortunate, is 1,500 deaths in Oregon. Our statewide hospitalizations is 230 per week, which is down slightly from the last time that we met. So we'll move on to our Washington County numbers. And as usual, I've given you a comparison. We haven't had a presentation or an update since the 14th, since the middle of December. So this comparison is to then. So you can see that we've increased to 16,430 cases. We also have an additional 340 presumptive cases. The hospitalizations is a cumulative number for Washington County, as the deaths are a cumulative number from Washington County. The next numbers below, long-term care facilities, congregate care settings, workplace settings, those are current outbreaks as of this week. So you can see that we're continuing to see a large number of outbreaks within Washington County. We can go to the next slide. So this is just another view. I think that you may have noticed we had that bump in the week or two after, a couple of weeks after Thanksgiving. Remember, we had a bump of 56%. And then we were starting to have a decline, and that's what you see here. Is if you look at the very end of the chart, you'll see that we did start to have a lower number of cases. As with Thanksgiving, we are concerned about now the Christmas or holiday, the continued holiday bump that happened, that is likely to have happened. So we need to wait another week to see what's happening with that. But we do know that there was some record travel in December. So we'll keep a close eye on that. We can go to the next slide. So this slide shows our case rate, and there's some good news there. You can see that our case rate has been going down for the last 3 weeks. The latest week that we see is our December 20th through January 2nd, and our case rate was 324 per 100,000. And that still is within the extreme risk category, but it's definitely going down and it's going in the right direction. And you can see that the other two counties continue to be in the extreme risk category as well. So next slide. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an update about our school partnership. Tricia Mortel, your Public Health Division Manager, and I continue to meet each week with the Washington County ESD superintendents, and really developing, continuing a really strong partnership. So what we learned is that the schools are working on plans for more in-person student learning in 2021. And I think, Chair Harrington, you mentioned during the work session, during your comments, that our governor has what really relaxed some of the guidelines. She's moved from the in-person school learning metrics as a requirement to a recommendation. And she's really encouraging schools to move towards in-person learning, especially for the kindergarten through third grade age level, because we know based on the research that those kids are less likely to have severe illness and they're less likely to transmit COVID-19 to others. And so there's a lot of encouragement by the governor to move back into in-person learning, which is a really positive. It really shows that we're a learning state as we learn more and more about how this virus interacts with different populations. Our recommendations, our metrics are adjusting and changing as we learn more from the science. So part of what needs to happen then is we need to get our teachers and our school personnel vaccinated. And so educators and school personnel have become a high priority to receive vaccine access within the first phase. They've moved up into phase 1, group B. So schools also will have rapid access to rapid testing so that people that are exposed can be identified quickly, and we can prevent larger scale outbreaks by isolating and quarantining people who are either sick or have been exposed. Public health staff are identifying more teams to work with the schools to make sure that we're prepared to provide the technical assistance and to assist them with any rapid testing, isolation, quarantine, communication with parents and teachers. And we're in the process of finalizing, developing joint communication with schools for parents and teachers to ensure that we're all sending the same message, because like I said, we're learning as this pandemic goes on, and so those messages change, and that can be confusing to teachers and to parents. And so we want to make sure that we're all on the same page about what we're doing to reduce risk. Risk is never going to be zero, but the schools and public health working together are doing a lot to reduce the risk. And we want people to be informed about how we would respond to positive cases and mitigate outbreak within the school setting. So we can go to the next slide. So now we're going to move on to vaccination and spend most of the rest of this presentation on vaccines. So you all know that the FDA and the Academy of Immunization Practices have approved and recommended both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines, and those are being administered in the state of Oregon. And as of this week, you can see that we have had very small numbers, but they are starting to deliver the second doses. So on January 3rd of this year, 2021, TVFNR started vaccinating their frontline personnel. Vaccinations of several hundred firefighters and paramedics will continue throughout the week. And in partnership with our county public health, TVFNR will move on to vaccinate local law enforcement and other essential city and county workers in the coming months. And we can go to the next slide. So this slide is a picture of paramedic Meg Ryan. She was the first TVFNR employee to receive vaccine. She's been a paramedic since 2007 and joined TVFNR in 2017. And what she said about the vaccine is, I feel great. I'm excited for the opportunity to get it and excited to start protecting our residents. It provides everyone a little bit of hope in a time that's greatest need. I think it will give me a little more confidence when treating patients. Paramedic Jesse Gonzalez also feels relieved to be vaccinated, and he says, I'm not letting my guard down. I'm having some assurance that we're protected is a huge deal for us in the community, but we're still wearing masks inside the station. We still keep 6 feet distance, and we are taking every precaution for those that haven't received the vaccine. Fire Chief Derek Weiss was present to celebrate the vaccine kickoff and said, this has been a long time coming for me to see the first few people go through this. It's a culmination of all the hard work by the men and women across the organization. They're excited and they're encouraged about the future. There's a lot of work ahead. So the other thing I just wanted to point out is that the person giving the vaccine is Darcia, I'm probably saying this wrong, Dacia Graber, and she is representative-elect for District 35 to the Oregon House of Representatives. So that's another little tidbit for you. So we also, Washington County, received 700 doses within the first wave of vaccine, and we have provided those to TVFNR for the EMS and law enforcement vaccinations. And then we're working, looking at the other 200 doses and really trying to understand what's happening with the long-term care centers and assisted living, and working to make sure that either their facilities or we can vaccinate other high-risk populations using our MRCs and our FQHCs. So we can go to the next slide. So just a little bit of reminder, the vaccines are extremely effective, over 95% effective, and they are safe. There are some side effects, and you can see on the slide, some people are reporting fatigue, headaches, chills, body aches, and tenderness at the vaccine site. Because of a uncommon, but there have been a few severe allergic reactions. And so at this point, the guidance states that you should not receive the vaccine if you have severe allergies. And usually the way that that is defined is somebody that needs to carry an EpiPen with them. And after your vaccine, you are asked to stay for a 15-minute observation period just to make sure that you're not having any severe reactions. So I also wanted to give you an idea. So the way that this works, because we get a lot of questions about, you know, can we vaccinate this population or that population, or really specifically questions about my mom or my aunt, or, you know, really specific friends and family. And we're happy to see that. We're thrilled to know that people want to get this vaccine for the most part. But the way that this works is the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practice makes the recommendations. So they have recommended who the priority populations are during the different phases that we've talked about. And I have a slide that will show you that a little bit more. And then CDC recommendations for distribution of the vaccine. So how to get the vaccine out there. When it gets to the state has a vaccine plan that's based on the CDC guidance and the ACIP guidance. Oregon Health Authority also has a vaccine advisory board, and they're meeting for the first time this week. And what they're really focused on is how do we ensure equitable access to the vaccines. And that's all the way from receiving it to getting it out throughout the state and making sure that our historically underserved communities, one, understand what about the vaccine and that they have access to the vaccine and all of their questions have been answered. So at the local level, we're planning based on OHA and their plan, their guidance, their recommendations, which all flow down from CDC and ACIP. And so what we're working on then is a lot of logistical challenges. So some of it is just that the phase that who's eligible to receive the vaccine and how do we get that vaccine to them. So for example, we talked a little bit about that teachers and school personnel have been prioritized now. And so we're working with OHA and with our local partners to determine, well, what is the most efficient and effective way to make sure that that vaccine is accessible to teachers and school personnel. And so we're doing the same right now. We're vaccinating phase 1A, group 1, because OHA within phase 1A has 4 different groups that are prioritized. One of the late-breaking pieces of news is that OHA has moved from prioritizing groups 1 through 4 on a timeline to right now they're saying anybody in groups 1 through 4 can be vaccinated. And so we no longer have to move through the groups 1 group at a time. So but right now, this week, we're really focused on direct care health workers, long-term care and assisted living facilities, and as you heard, first responders, EMS, and later this week, local law enforcement. Locally, we're also really focused on community outreach and a priority to really understand what are the needs and how do we ensure that historically underserved and our disproportionately affected populations receive the vaccine. We can go to the next slide. So this is just a couple of dashboards. You can get to these dashboards either directly on the OHA COVID-19 page or through our Health and Human Services COVID-19 page. There's direct links to this. So you can see, and this was as of yesterday, you can see that in Oregon, about 51,000 people have been vaccinated. And in here in Washington County, 6,400 people have been vaccinated. The bar graphs at the bottom just show the number of people vaccinated by different days. And like I said, this is changing as we're talking. So the next slide. So one of the things that I've been talking about is that we really want to ensure that our Black, Indigenous, and other populations of color, our people of color, have access to vaccine. And the first step to that, and I think our Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer has shared with you also at a presentation a few weeks ago about the long-standing mistrust of the medical system, of government, of public health. And so we have a lot to overcome to make sure that we understand what the concerns are and that we work with these communities to address the concerns together. And so we've had some conversations with our community-based organizations in the last couple of weeks. And this is just a little sample of some of the concerns that have been raised by these community-based organizations. Concerns about what's in the vaccines. Are there any pork products or animal products within the vaccines? Fears that employers are going to require vaccination. Some people are concerned that they might get COVID from the vaccine. People are not sure about what's the process to get the vaccine. What if I don't have a doctor? I don't know where to go. And then clients not bringing it up. So maybe they're just not even asking about it or thinking about it, or when they visit their doctor, if they don't bring it up. And then the other thing that we're learning as we have these conversations and people are confused, about what's the difference between the influenza vaccine and the COVID vaccine. And so all of this is what we're learning as we are out in the community. And several of you mentioned the great forum that the Muslim Educational Trust convened last week. And we heard some of these same kinds of concerns at that forum. And just the importance of making sure that communities understand about the vaccine and have access to the vaccine. And thanks to connections that Commissioner Treese helped make, we are working with the Muslim Educational Trust to actually provide some vaccine clinics on site when it's more broadly available. So we really appreciate that connection that you helped to make for us, Commissioner Treese. All right. Next slide. So as we talk about, and I think, we all heard from Director Allen at OHA, and we've been talking about the importance of making sure that a diverse population has access to these vaccines, in particular those that are most impacted. And you can see, I just wanted you to see that OHA is providing demographic data on their website, which we have a link to on our webpage. And beginning later this week or next week, they're going to provide this demographic data at the county level. And so I'll be able to share with you more information at the county level about who's being vaccinated and how we're doing serving our diverse communities. And you can see at this first look at the data by race and ethnicity, we're not doing very well yet. I think that the first vaccines were really focused on healthcare providers that were doing direct COVID care, taking care of COVID positive patients or patients that were at risk for COVID. And so I really hope to see this changing in the very near future. We can go to the next slide. So what's next is really moving through this timeline. And one of the first things you might look at is if you start at the anticipated timeline, it might be disappointing to see a lot of TBDs. But that is, I think somebody mentioned earlier too, even at the federal level, there's been delays in when, how much vaccine is being shipped and when it's being shipped and who it's being shipped to. So really focusing on the first two priority groups, and we've talked quite a bit about that, but we will continue to move down the phases into phase 1B, which is when we'll really start focusing on more community members that are at risk. Those over the age of 60, people that are in essential roles that help keep our community moving, and people that are in high risk categories like we saw during the summer, our food and agricultural workers, public transit, grocery workers, and we'll just continue as more and more vaccine becomes available to get out information about who's eligible and where you get that vaccine. For most of us, we're looking at this and saying, wow, I'm pretty far down on the list. Maybe I'm in phase 1C or even in phase 2 with the more general population. Most of us will get our vaccines like we do influenza, either at our healthcare provider's office or at a local pharmacy. And so as the vaccine becomes available, we'll continue to send out information through all sorts of avenues about who's eligible and where you can get your vaccine. And our public health division will be really focused on assuring that those people that we talked about earlier that may not have a doctor, our houseless population, some of our immigrant or migrant populations, Our vulnerable, historically underserved populations will be working with Virginia Garcia, with our Medical Reserve Corps, Neighborhood Health Center, to really ensure that those populations have access to vaccinations. And I think with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Marnie. Commissioners, do you have any questions or other information you might need or thoughts you'd like to share? Commissioner Rogers.
Sure, these are, three of them are not new and one of them is. Marnie, I know you can't do a lot about what the governor's ratings and risk categories are, but I continue to say that when you're trying to do international business or out-of-state business, when you use high risk and extreme risk, these are horrible categories. These are just ones that we impose here in the state, and anything you can do to say, okay, we have other 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever we want to call them, but it's extremely difficult for people to say, I come from an extreme risk county, I'd sure like to do business with you. Secondly, anything you can do to, again, emphasize that I'm hoping that we're not picking winners and losers in businesses. If we would apply consistently the good science and say, gee, you have to mask, you have to have 6 feet, and business figure it out. And we say, for certain kinds of businesses, I know you have 300 seats in your restaurant, but you can't open it up, even though you could put people every 30 feet. I'm not sure we're sending the right message. If you would again comment in regard to those dying of COVID, I was just listening to some program. I hear all these interesting constituent comments. Usually they're not very pleasant towards us because they don't like that we follow the science and we're not going to buckle. But there was some gentleman in another state who died of COVID, but he had 3 bullet wounds in his chest. And they said, well, he's a COVID death. Make certain we're counting them right. And then I'm curious on your one slide on vaccination demographics, you said that people self-identify in more than one race. They're counted in every race. Seems like we're double counting people. So we want to get more vaccine out. So anyway, that's my list.
Thank you for that. And we do continue to share the concerns that you've raised with Oregon Health Authority and with the governor's office when we have those conversations. On the vaccine demographics, thanks for pointing that out, Commissioner Rogers. I had that exact same question when I saw that, because when it under the category that talks about race, it does say people with 2 or more races are counted in each of the racial categories, but they're counted only once in the total number of people vaccinated. And so I had that same question, but thank you for raising that, because I'm sure others will have that question when they look.
Thank you.
Other commissioner comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. I have a couple of questions for you, Marnie. I know back in December, glad to have 2020 behind us, but as we were having and continue to have a large number of community spread cases here in Washington County, I know your team was really challenged to enter data into the state's database. I'm wondering if with the movement of new database tools and so forth, is the team still struggling with that, or has it improved at all?
That's a great question, Chair Harrington. Thank you for asking. There are still some struggles, and I have been watching our daily case count, and there's been data that hasn't been analyzed every day. They talk about that. My impression, I will double check with the staff, but my impression is that it may be improving, because OHA has made some improvements. But that's a great question. I haven't talked with Tricia this week about that yet, but I'll follow up on that.
Well, please let us know if we need to apply some more gentle pressure. on that.
Thank
And
you.
so the second question I have, and I have one, don't worry, hang on, Tanya, Angie, I've got one for you too. But the question, Marnie, I have for you, does OHA, how's their level of receptiveness to concerns and needs from the public health team? Is that going okay, or do we need to apply a little pressure there?
I think that the partnership with OHA is going pretty well. There's always struggles between state and local, but they have weekly, if not more often, meetings. Tricia has meetings with different sectors within OHA, COVID response, almost every day. And they are asking our opinion, but they also are balancing the needs, the statewide needs. But the relationship is going pretty well, and we appreciate their partnership in general.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, please pass on my thanks to all of the team members for their patience and their persistence, as well as their dedication. I know it's been a very long 10 months. I do hope that the different team members had the opportunity for a little bit of rest and relaxation over the last couple of weeks so that they were able to start the new year with some renewed energy versus a continuous pandemic drain. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I have a question both to Ms. Angie as well as to Ms. Taniguchi Dennis as our two the two executive officers for Washington County as well as Clean Water Services. We have buildings that we operate, multiple buildings with employees as well as community members. And right now, under extreme risk, we have scaled back our building presence so as to keep our community as well as our employees as healthy as possible. And I really appreciate all of the work that the two agencies have put in for that. As we learned a tremendous lot about this virus over the last few months, we've learned more about the presence of particulates, as well as various disinfection and cleaning techniques. There seems to be a renewed emphasis on HVAC systems. And so I'm wondering what we might need to think about in the future months for facility planning and potential upgrades to ensure that congregate buildings that we operate, like the jail, all the way down to our health clinics and our office buildings, there may be some new building capital improvement demands that we need to think about. Any early thoughts on that, or how we as a board be getting information in the future for pondering additional investments?
So I can start. Chair Harrington and board, I think Diane and I were kindly trying to look at each other through the virtual world of who would like to go first. So our facility team has been working in partnership with the departments that are housed out of the buildings to look at our HVAC systems and facilities in general to ensure that there is safety. Moving forward, as we go into new construction, I am confident that there will be new systems and design and specs that we will need to be looking at that is on our facility team's radar. I am not foreseeing anything within the immediate future that we need to retrofit buildings. We have ensured safety in our congregate settings, such as the jails, and that was some of our early investments of time and financial resources that our facility teams had embarked on.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, for that question. HVAC systems is a critical component of continuity of operations. So the Clean Water Services team early on, they assessed the HVAC system, and we actually installed the highest level of filtration that we could, that the systems could handle. So we've upgraded them at the beginning of the pandemic, and the teams are now split and working in pods to control the number of people that could potentially be impacted. But certainly in the long run, we are rethinking about our HVAC systems from the perspective of the wildfires. We learned a lot, because under the pandemic, you want to have an increased return air into the buildings to provide that level of support. But under the fire conditions, we actually had to shut the HVAC systems down. And we found that our systems are not made to totally shut down and button up the system. So we're actually learned a lot through both the pandemic and the wildfires of how we need to, as Tanya said, begin thinking about our HVAC systems for the future. We also realize we have a very open a workplace. We actually wanted to model sort of this open sort of space, but even under COVID operations, we had to modify the spaces that employees sit in. But if they don't have walls that go to the ceiling, they're still considered open. So the team members need to wear these masks. So it's even rethinking our workspaces for the future of how we're going to operate. But yes, thank you for the question. I know our facilities team is very, in fact, they're pinging me with little emails about what they're doing, and they're very, I've been very proud of the work that they've been very mindful of.
Chair Harrington, can I just add on operations right now, and I believe you had highlighted this earlier on, we're still in the extreme risk category. As we move to high risk, looking at the metrics, looking at operations, we are not seeing a significant change in how the county operations and services are continued to be delivered. So I do want to just share that as far as what we're looking at right now, because high risk and extreme risk, frankly, are very similar in the risk categories. And we do need to, just as our facilities and HVAC, we need to ensure safety for our community as well as the well-being of our employees. And I'm very happy to see our COVID rates going down from our employee base, and we want to ensure that continues as well.
Thank you, each of you, for that information. In starting a new year, it's been helpful for me to be reminded of where we're at with our operations and what currently is in place. So if you happen to do a refresh of that information as part of the employee newsletters on Horizons and Pipeline, I know I will read those as well, as I usually try to do, and that will continue to cement the 2021 reality into my head. Darn it all, I'm really looking forward to the clearance that I can go back into the office, the work masked up. I do miss having the opportunity to occasionally see people in person versus only electronically. I remain very pleased that the agency has this full electronic deployment so that all of us can do our part to reduce the community spread of this virus. It is disappointing that the virus continues to not only be in control, as we've heard for 10 months, the virus controls things, not us, but that the community spread is at that highest risk level. That's what the label is all about. It's all characterizing the spread in our community. And I don't like it either. But I appreciate that every employee, every community member is making a best effort to not be a statistic and to not add to those statistics. So thank you very much, Marnie, for continuing to be before us at strategic points so that we have best available information. And thank you also to the communications team for presenting this scientifically informed information on the county website, as well as our various social media channels, so that it can be shared with our community as much as possible. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So I just wanted to let the board know that I'm going to be doing these just once a month at the evening meetings, unless there's something critical or urgent to let you know. So you'll see me one more time in January, and then it'll be once a month after that. So appreciate all your patience for these last several months and willingness to learn. Thank you.
Well, and I know that we can count on, if there's something late breaking, that leadership communication will bring that in, or, you know, Ms. Angie may pull you into a meeting and we'll adjust agendas to make sure that we get that great information out. Commissioner Treese, did you have something?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to Marnie and your team for all the work that you've done. During work session, I did talk about the support that you provided before the MET presentation, but throughout this whole almost a year now, you have been excellent in providing information to us. So, and it's been point after point, just right on, and it's been so helpful in turning around and communicating to our public. So thank you. And thank you for the connection, the really tight connection that you've made with OHA and the other counties in our region as well.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question? Marnie, this is my first meeting, so I'm not sure what you said, if you're coming back tomorrow, Thursday's work session, so I'll just ask you now. I'm wondering about my question is to the vaccine and the deployment of it, and the opportunity to utilize communities of color organizations here in Washington County. I also am not sure about the composition of OHA's advisory committee and the involvement or level of involvement of community-based organizations in Washington County in that committee. And I think it's really because groups that are impacted in our county by COVID, I really think it's important that we utilize the communities of color and community-based organizations that serve that community, and to make sure we build trust and also give them the resources that they need to build that level of trust and get the communication and message out. So what is the strategy? Well, first, what's the composition? Are there community-based organizations in Washington County that are critically involved in that committee? And if not, what's the strategy for Washington County to either form our own vaccine-related committee here, and what's the strategy utilizing CBOs from those communities?
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Fye, for your question. It's a great question. So there are some Washington County representatives on the OHA Vaccine Advisory Group, but I don't know who yet. And as soon as they, I know that will be public information. And to be honest, it may already be on their website. So I'll look and make sure we get that information back to you. And then also, thank you for giving me an opportunity to highlight that Washington County, we have a great partnership with our Office of Equity and Inclusion and Community Engagement, and we're working together and to develop a community advisory committee that's representative of people of color and our BIPOC community, Latinx community within Washington County to advise us. And my understanding from Amanda Garcia Snell and Latricia Tillman and our public health staff are all working together. And that community is going to be a little bit, or that community advisory committee will be a little bit broader than vaccines, so they'll certainly advise us on vaccine matters, but we're asking them to advise us sort of on all things COVID. And in the meantime, we've had several meetings. We met with the Coalition on Communities of Color, and we participated in the Muslim Educational Trust Forum. And we've also had a convening with our CBOs to learn from them, what are they hearing from the community members that they serve. So Centro Cultural, Adelante, Mujeres was on that. MET was a part of that. ERCO was a part of that. Asian Health Services. I'm sure I'm forgetting. There were several CBOs that took part in that, and it's sort of helping us. Well, it is helping us inform even what are the next steps as we convene this local Washington County advisory group. And once that is set too, I can let you know exactly who those members are too. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Marnie.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments or questions at this point? All righty. Thank you, Marnie.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
We'll move on to the next item on the agenda to announce vacancies on county boards and commissions. We have 33 total in the set of boards and commissions, or I refer to them as committees. 16 of them have vacancies. We are entering a time period of 6 weeks for entertaining applications from throughout our community to serve on these different committees. Those applications will be taken through February 16th, which is a Tuesday, or until all vacancies are filled. With the exception of one committee, the Washington County Salary Commission, which has a recruitment authorized through January 12th, or until all vacancies are filled. So I would beg your allowance. The full list of applications is available on page 15 of the PDF, but those 16 in the set of committees include Aging and Veteran Services Advisory Council, the Behavioral Health Council, the Civil Service Commission, the Columbia Pacific Economic Development District, also referred to as COLPAC, the Developmental Disabilities Council, the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, or ESPD, Advisory Committee, the Housing Advisory Committee, also referred to as HAC, the Metzger Park Local Improvement District Advisory Board, the North Bethany County Service District for Roads Budget Committee, the Northwest Area Commission on Transportation, also known as NW-ACT or Northwest ACT, the Park and Recreation Advisory Board, the Public Health Advisory Council, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, the Washington County and Service District for Lighting Number 1 Budget Committee, and the Washington County Salary Commission, the West Slope Community Library Advisory Board. So those are the 16 boards and commissions where we have vacancies right now. Further information can be found on the Washington County website. Right over in the left-hand menu, there's an item for boards and commissions, and the criteria for serving on each of these boards and commissions does vary. Some are geographically based, some positions are available looking for certain expertise and so forth. Other opportunities require that someone work, but not necessarily reside here in Washington County. So please do take a look, and we appreciate everyone in their volunteer contributions to advising us as the Washington County Boards of Commission. So that's it for announcing those vacancies. Next, we'll move on to the public hearing section of our agenda. We have just one public hearing, and that is related to adopting a resolution and order levying the final reimbursement district charges for the Weibull Creek Trunk Reimbursement District Site Development Project number 10005. Since this is not a land use ordinance, so we don't need to read it by title only. So without further ado, Ms. Taniguchi Dennis, do we have a staff report of any kind before we have this public hearing?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Chair Harrington. I noticed Nora Curtis is online, but I was also looking for Elle Allen because Elle was going to provide the staff report. So Nora and Elle, I leave it to both of you.
Is Elle on the call? Because it was Elle to give the
yes,
presentation.
Elle is, but Elle, you're muted. Oh, there we go. Take
Good
it
morning.
away, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Harrington and members of the board. Happy New Year. My name is Elle Allen, and I am a program manager in the Planning and Development Services Division at the district. Next slide, please. This morning's public hearing is in regard to the Weibull Creek Trunk Reimbursement District in the North Hillsborough Industrial Area. This reimbursement district was formed by this board in February of 2020 prior to construction of the sanitary sewer trunk line and based on estimated project costs. The trunk line has since been constructed and actual project costs are now known. According to Ordinance 41, if a reimbursement district is formed prior to construction, a second public hearing is held after improvements have been accepted by the district. And this second public hearing has the purpose of setting final reimbursement district charges and is an opportunity to modify charges to reflect actual project costs. Next slide, please. JSR Micro completed construction of the Weibull Creek trunk in the fall of 2020. This trunk line is shown on this map and generally follows the alignment of Weibull Creek between the future North Hillsborough Pump Station and Northeast Star Boulevard. This trunk was constructed in anticipation of serving the JSR Micro development, which is shown on this map in orange hatching. The reimbursement district eligible portion of this trunk is located off-site and downstream of JSR Micro and is shown on this map in the line type that is red and black dashes. There are two privately owned benefited properties which are part of this reimbursement district, and they are shown on this map in blue cross-hatching. The property identified as Flexential is currently under development and has already paid their reimbursement district charge. They have no outstanding reimbursement district obligation, and there is no recommended change for this property. The property identified on this map as Erdman has not yet connected to the sewer or paid their reimbursement district charge. A proposed modification to the reimbursement district charge would affect this property. Next slide, please. So JSR Micro completed construction of the trunk line and submitted final costs to the district. Staff has reviewed the cost information and completed a final engineering review and reimbursement methodology report. The report describes the eligible project costs, the distribution methodology, and proposed modifications to the reimbursement district charges. The report is included as an attachment to this board item and has been provided to all affected property owners. Staff recommends maintaining the existing cost distribution methodology, which is a percentage of the eligible costs based on developable land area plus the easement costs that are directly attributable to each specific property. This methodology was selected with the goal of distributing costs based on the potential benefit that a property could gain from connection. At the time the reimbursement district was formed, charges were set based on estimated costs. Currently, there is one outstanding charge and actual project costs are known. Staff recommends modifying the remaining reimbursement district charge to reflect the actual project costs. This modification would result in the reduction to the one outstanding charge. Next slide, please. The total eligible reimbursement district costs for the Weibull Creek trunk are shown in the first line of this table. The far right column of this row shows that the actual costs were less than the estimated costs by just under $25,000. There is a portion of these costs that are not reimbursable and are borne by JSR Micro as the developing party. The remainder of those eligible costs have been assigned to two benefited properties. As I've mentioned, the Flexential Reimbursement District charge has already been paid and there is no proposed change. The Erdman Reimbursement District charge has not yet been paid. The bottom row of this table shows that there is a proposed reduction in their reimbursement district charge of $11,641.04. This proposed reduction is based solely on actual project cost data, and it uses the existing board-adopted cost distribution methodology for this reimbursement district. Next slide, please. Information about this proposed modification to the reimbursement district charge has been noticed in the Oregonian, published on our website, and shared via email and certified mail with each of the potentially affected property owners. Staff is recommending that the board open the public hearing, receive testimony, and after considering testimony, adopt the resolution and order to establish the final reimbursement district charges for the Weibull Creek Trunk Reimbursement District. Staff has had correspondence with representatives of each benefited property, and there is no known opposition to this recommended action. This concludes the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. If I could just make sure I understand this clearly. So the staff recommendation is to maintain the existing distribution methodology, but to modify the actual reimbursement district charge to use the actual cost versus the prior estimated costs. Did I internalize that correctly?
You did.
Whew.
Yes.
Because we're talking about some significant dollars here, $12,000 and $11,000. So thank you. 2% sounds like a small number, but it's a small percentage applied to some pretty big charges, which relates to the fact that infrastructure costs big money. So great, thank you. Are there any other commissioner questions or comments with regard to this proposal before we start the public hearing? Seeing none, I'd like to open the public hearing. Mr. Moss, do we have anyone signed up today?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, so seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And we have a resolution and order to adopt the attached recommendation from staff for levying the final reimbursement district charges for the Weibull Creek Trunk Reimbursement District. What are the wishes of the commission?
Move for the requested action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt today's resolution and order. Are there any last questions or comments before we take a vote? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting this resolution and order, please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you, commissioners. Next, we'll move on to the action section of our agenda. The first item today is to designate our new vice chair for calendar year 2021. Following our rules of procedure, this is a rotating assignment. And the recommendation this year is to designate Commissioner Pam Treese, the District 2 Commissioner, as the vice chair for the Washington County Board of Commissioners for the calendar year 2021. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Look at that, Commissioner Treese, it's unanimous, 5-0. Yes, thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to the next item under our action agenda, and that is to authorize amendments to the Public Library Services Agreement and the Information Network Agreement, extending the current agreements through June 30th of 2022. Yay, we're talking about 2022 already. We are fully in the 2020s. Welcome, Ms. Lisa Tattersall, our manager of the Washington County Cooperative Library Services. And I'll turn it over to you for a staff report, please.
Thank you. Happy New Year, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. Welcome back, Commissioner Rogers. Welcome, Commissioner Fye. WCCLS is looking forward to working with you. I'm Lisa Tattersall, Manager of Washington County Cooperative Library Services. So today we're requesting that the board authorize amendments to 2 intergovernmental agreements, or IGAs, with the 9 cities and 3 nonprofits that operate public libraries in Washington County. These amendments would extend these IGAs by 1 year with new expiration dates of June 30th, 2022. Like you said, exciting year. At your work session on September 2nd, we presented a report on this topic. We reviewed the IGAs and indicated our intent to approach the cities and nonprofits with the proposal to extend the IGAs. At their September 30th, 2020 meeting, the executive board of WCCLS discussed this proposal, and the executive board represents the leadership of the 9 cities and 3 nonprofits that operate public libraries in Washington County, and they are advisory to you, the Board of Commissioners. So on September 30th, the executive board agreed to extend the current intergovernmental agreements to allow for a more robust process for future agreements that would have a performance period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2026. The collaborative process would provide opportunities to clarify roles and responsibilities, to address changing service priorities, especially around IT, and to address equity needs within our communities. So this action item today would authorize amendments to the Public Library Services Agreement and the Information Network Agreement, extending expiration dates for each of those through June 30th, 2022. A little bit about the funding part of it. The amendment to Public Library Services Agreement Attachment A, which was included in the agenda packet, would allow the distribution of $27.6 million in funding countywide to member libraries during fiscal year 21-22. This distribution would be included in our budget request to the Board of Commissioners as part of the fiscal year 21-22 budget process. It represents a 3% increase on the previous year's distribution for the cities and nonprofits we contract with. And the funding source for this distribution to libraries, 60% of the revenue or the funding source is from the general fund transfer, and then 40% comes from the levy. This concludes my report. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Tattersall. Commissioners, any questions for our great manager? Lisa, I just have one clarifying question.
Yeah.
It's really just continuing my knowledge now that I'm in my 3rd year as a commission member here. WCCLS does a terrific job, but with your leadership, I know they work on a new strategic plan for set time periods. Does the time period for the performance period that you mentioned from July 1st, 2022 to the end of that fiscal year, June 30th, 2026. Does that align with the next sort of vision or visibility period for updating the strategic plan?
That's a really good question. The current strategic plan that we have, I'm going to turn around and grab it. So I'm going to disappear at my background for a second.
Oh yeah, with virtual backgrounds, that's pretty cool.
I know. It expires June of 2022. And so I know that I'm going to want to have a conversation with county administration about, I understand the county is going through a strategic planning process. We'll be kicking that off. So I want to make sure that we kind of align with that. And so that's on my mental list to check in with CAO about.
Terrific, great. Well, I have no concerns. Certainly, we saw a really good proposal when in this time last year when we were working on a new referral for the WCCLS level. I know that the full WCCLS team, and that includes all of the city and nonprofit library teams, has been very nimble. Has always been nimble, but has been especially nimble over these last 10 months in ensuring that we have good services to meet our community needs during this very trying time. So thank you very much for all that work. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? No? Do we have a motion to move forward with these two amendments and authorize the amendments to the WCCLS to IGAs with cities and nonprofits?
So moved.
We have a motion and we have a second. Thank you, Commissioner Willie. All those in favor of this authorization, please vote by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
And we're now on to, thank you, Ms. Tattersall. We are now on to our next agenda item to amend the fiscal year 2020-21 annual road maintenance program. And I know we have our Land Use Transportation Director, Stephen Roberts, as well as the Manager for Road Operations, Todd Watkins, on the line. Gentlemen, please take it away.
Very quick staff report on context, but this is an item that we typically do this time of year just to make some adjustments to our annual road maintenance work program. So with that, I'll ask Todd to take it away.
There you
go. The little mute button helps there. Good morning, Chair Harrington, Commissioners. Happy New Year. Todd Watkins, Road Operations Manager for LUT. And we did come to your board back on June 16th with RNO 20-69, and that was the annual road maintenance program adoption. Over the course of the year, we do have amendments that come up, and we do come to your board periodically to amend that work program. This can happen for a variety of reasons, unplanned, unexpected events, or just things that come up during the course of the year. And so with that, you have in front of you an amendment to the work program. It has three primary amendments. We have some surface repairs that we're going to be adding to the program, a couple of culvert replacements, and then also we're going to be adding some various phases to several of the Urban Road Maintenance District bike and ped improvement projects. So you'll see those listed there in the matrix. This is a routine amendment. There's really nothing unusual about it or out of the ordinary. This is a pretty much standard affair for us. But I will be happy to answer any questions you have about any of these items or any road-related issues that you might have.
Commissioners, any questions or comments? I would just like to add, since we have you at this time, I want to thank each of you and all of the employees in the Land Use and Transportation Department, and that includes the road operations folks who are actually out in the field tending all of these culverts and roads and sidewalks. Thank you for staying healthy. Thank you to each of the employees for following the protocols. I do hope now that we're in the wet winter rainy season that our pavement surfaces, our culverts, and that Mother Nature is not wreaking too much havoc for the team. But I'm sure it's pretty darned interesting, as I've certainly seen on the LUT social media sites with having, you know, Fern Hill Road and other roads challenged by the weather right now. Frankly, I'm hoping that we'll have at least one winter event of snow this year, but, you know, rue the day when it happens, right?
Well, you know, it is funny because I think this year with the remote learning, kids are going to think differently about snow days this year.
And always be careful what you wish for there, Chair.
I know. I want a snow
little white
event,
stuff
but
is.
no, I don't want any power outages for anyone.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't want it to disrupt any COVID testing or vaccination plans either. So I guess I should be hoping instead for a totally mild winter instead. I take that back. Thank you. Okay. So what are the wishes of the commission with regard to a motion to approve this resolution and order to adopt the proposed amendments to the fiscal year 21 annual road maintenance program as described in Exhibit 1?
Motion to approve requested action.
Second, anyone? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you, commissioners. I appreciate your diligence on all of these matters. That now brings us, that completes our full action agenda section, brings us to our second oral communication period of the meeting. This is an opportunity for anyone to speak to the commission for up to 5 minutes. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone signed up today?
We do not, Madam Chair.
All right. Well, seeing none, I want to move to board announcements. Let's see. Our next meeting will be a round table this Thursday, starting at 10 a.m. And once again, we are continuing all of our commission meetings virtually. Thank you to the team for all of the logistical support. Next Tuesday, January 12th, we only have a work session, so a packed agenda for that. Then the following Tuesday, January 19th, which is the day after a national holiday, Martin Luther King Day on Monday, we'll have a work session starting at 8:30, following a board meeting in the morning, and then the work session will reconvene after that into the afternoon. And then our last Tuesday of the month of January, January 26th, we'll have an afternoon work session starting at 2 and an evening board meeting. And that is when we will have Marnie Kyle, our Director of Health and Human Services, back for another COVID update, and thus starting our new practice of those updates, unless there are late breaking reports. So, are there any other board announcements or any late breaking leadership announcements? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn today's Board of Commissioners meeting.
So
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning this Tuesday, January 5th, 2021 meeting of the Washington County Board of Commissioners, please vote by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. We are hereby adjourned, and we will reconvene in our work session starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay. Thanks all for a great meeting. So you're a veteran now, Commissioner Fye. You've been through your first business meeting. Welcome aboard.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you all later at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
A different link, right?
Yes, Commissioner Rogers, that is the third link that Angie sent you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.